What's up everybody, Adam here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Stromberg Carlson ladder mounted bike rack. So if you're trying to get just two light bikes from your house to the campsite, this is going to be a great way to do it. All you really need is a ladder, but that ladder needs to be on the back of your camper, and we want to make sure that the diameter of the tubes of the ladders are going to be 1 inch. That's what we need to make sure that this is going to work. And then we're going to be able to grab two bikes and throw them on here. We don't want to go over 25 pounds just because that's the weight limit of this rack. So 25 pounds for each and two bikes. We want to make sure that the tube, which is going to be basically the tube where you're sitting on right here, we want to make sure that that's not going to have a diameter any larger than 2 inches. The reason why we want our bike tube diameters to be no greater than 2 inches is just because of how it connects. So we're going to have these rubber straps. They are pretty tough to get on whenever you get down there, which I like that, so they're not going to fly off because we will see a decent amount of movement. And it is rubber, and we don't have to worry about it scratching up our bike frames. And then on top of that, we also have a little insert on the bottom as well. So no damage is going to happen to your bikes when they're on here. We can actually adjust these. So let me go ahead and take this bike off. I'm gonna pull this. Like I said, these things are on there. So you're gonna need a little bit of muscle. And then we can go ahead and take this off. I did notice that we do have a decent amount of tangles with our bikes. So that is something to kind of think about. But since we can adjust these cradles, you can kind of get an idea of what's going to be perfect for whatever bikes you plan on putting up there, so you don't have to deal with this. I mean, you're going to have bikes kind of get tangled up with the rack or with bikes on any other type of bike rack. But with this one, we can kind of adjust for our specific scenario. So we have our little cradles here, and they'll go along that whole entire tube. You can only do it so much just because of the bike that's already on there. But let's do some measurements. So from our ladder, the center of our ladder to the farthest most point, it's going to be about 16¼ of an inch. And then the overall length, as you guys can see, it goes up. It's going to be about 21½ inches from the very top to the bottom of this tube. So now let's go ahead and take this next bike off, so I can show you what you're going to do whenever you need to use your ladder. So this isn't completely preventing us from doing what we need to do up on top of our RV. So all we need to do is take our bikes off, lay them down somewhere, and notice that we have some pins up top. So whenever you're installing these, we want to make sure we're going to have one facing forward when it's ready to load bikes. But then when we can pull this, we can actually rotate this around on both sides. To lock it in, all you got to do is just take your little pin and place it in there. And now our ladder is usable. So we can just go ahead and use it the same as we did before to do whatever we got to do up on top of our camper. This is going to be super clutch whenever you either don't have a hitch for a bike rack, you don't have a bumper for a bike rack, or you're just using both of them and you still need to get your bikes to and from wherever you're going. If you guys like the idea of this kind of bike rack, it doesn't really take a whole lot of time to install. So if you stick around, we're going to show you how we did it. First thing we want to do is figure out exactly where we want it. Depending on where your ladder is, it's going to depend on how we're going to be really hanging our bikes. We're basically going to hang ours vertically. So we want to make sure it's going to be high enough to where we're not going to have our bike sticking that much lower than our bumper. So something to take into consideration. It will vary from bike to bike, but basically all we're going to do is just get it put on. So what we're going to do is, one, we have these brackets that are already on our tube, and we're going to have another bracket that's going to hug it. We need to make sure that we're going to have a diameter of 1 inch on our ladder. So make sure to check and make sure that it is the right size so you can use it before you purchase. But as you can see, we are good to go here. So now, once that's kind of in there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some of these bolts in. They come with the kit. So line those up. Now that it's on there, I'm gonna push it all the way to the top. As far up as I can at least. And then we do have an included Allen key. So it's gonna go on one side. Come on, bracket. We're gonna have to keep this held up. Like that. So we'll take our Allen key on one side. And then 10mm socket on the other. We can tighten those down. Now that that side's done, we just got to do the same exact process for the other side. We just want to make sure that we, put it in the same orientation as the other one, and just make sure we line them up too. Couple quick tips. First, we want to make sure that these are going to line up to where we can fold them out away from our ladder so we can use them whenever we're not using them for bikes. So basically, right here is for holding bikes, but then when we fold it out like this, we can put this pin down in there and lock it into place out. So we are not limiting ourselves to not being able to use our ladder. So just make sure there is a right and a left. And another quick tip, at first I was using a 10mm socket and I had the nut on the other side, but it's really difficult to get that Allen key in there on this side. So put the nuts on the outward facing spot and then just use a 10mm wrench. It's a lot easier. Now that that's done, we have them all out, they're locked into position. And now what I'm gonna do, since it's on this side, I'm gonna put my wheels that way just so they're not sticking out. And this is gonna be kind of like a hanging style rack, but we're just hanging it a little bit differently. So each bike's gonna be a little different. So with this one, what we found I have to use the tube for the seat. To get these on. And these straps are just your normal little straps. And I did notice they are really tight, which is good. Because we know they're not gonna come off. They will eventually stretch out. But now that that's good, you can do the next one. Now once everything is nice and tightened down, we're pretty much good to go. It's pretty solid. There's a little bit of sway, but you're gonna get that with any type of hanging style rack, but it's pretty neat. And that's basically all there is to it. If you have another bike, you can throw that on there too, but we're pretty much ready to hit the road and go wherever we wanna go. And that'll do it for a look at the Stromberg Carlson ladder mounted bike rack.